you give us your response to the Trump administration freezing the $2.1 billion to the Red Line extension as well as the Red and Purple Line projects, allegedly because of race and sex-based contracting?
The fact that he has committed billions of dollars to other countries that are undermining our farmers here in this country, or billions of dollars to other countries who are starving children and flattening infrastructure in regions across this globe, and the west and the south sides of Chicago get nothing, it accentuates that his priority has always been to represent the interests of billionaires and the ultra-rich and large corporations, and especially at a time in which the south side of Chicago is under siege with his federal agents that are terrorizing our communities, where black families are being awakened in the middle of the night with masked armed men with high-power weapons in their face. We're going to do everything in our power to ensure that construction continues. The South Side has fought for this for 50 years, and we have finally delivered it. And after 50 years of struggle to make sure that the South Side is prioritized, this president is going to try to disrupt that, not under my watch.
Government shutdown day 3, and things just got way more tense. President Trump just froze over $2 billion meant for Chicago, and that's only part of a much bigger standoff. Here's what's happening. The Senate just failed again to pass a deal to reopen the government. Both sides are blaming each other, and that means the shutdown continues, now heading toward becoming one of the longest in U.S. history. The Trump administration froze $210 billion in transit funds for Chicago, saying it's reviewing how that money's used. In total, at least $28 billion in funding has been paused, mostly in Democratic-run areas. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker called it hostage-taking, saying it hurts working people who rely on public transit. The White House says more freezes could hit other cities like Portland, and agencies are already planning federal job cuts. Meanwhile, millions of government workers are missing paychecks, and key services, from research to financial regulation, are on hold. So the big question, how long will this shutdown last?
Billions of dollars for Chicago's infrastructure projects are now frozen.
Trump administration announcing that decision today comes a day after President Trump threatened to use the government shutdown to cut federal funding to democratically run states and cities. Jewel Hillary is live in the Lakeview neighborhood with more on this. Jewel.
Hi, good afternoon, Pat and Lourdes. According to a memo from the U.S. Department of Transportation, the federal government is pausing $2.1 billion from the city based on alleged race-based contracting. According to the DOT, that's the remaining amount of federal funding allocated for major CTA projects. One of them is the Red Line extension, set to add 4 stops to underserved communities on the south side. The other is the Red and Purple Line modernization project, a multi-year project that is nearly complete and expected to offer fewer delays, more efficient service, and relieve overcrowding. On X, President Trump's Office of Management and Budget Director shared a post saying the L projects have been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing via race-based contracting. The DOT says it issued a policy this week barring race and sex-based contracting requirements from federal grants, and that the Red Purple Line projects are under administrative review to determine whether any unconstitutional practices are occurring. During an event in Lakeview that just wrapped up, Mayor Brandon Johnson commented on this news.
Oh, this is another example of how deranged this president is, and how fixated he is on, removing opportunities away from black and brown and Asian and working class communities.
We have reached out to the CTA to get their comments on this, but have not heard back yet. Also, Mayor Johnson says he will fight the administration's decision, and that could include filing lawsuits. Additionally, today's announcement comes on the heels of the White House announcing that it's withholding $8 billion for clean energy projects in blue states, including here in Illinois. Reporting live on the north side, I'm Jewel Hillary, WGN News.
Trump just paused $2.1 billion in funding. Is Chicago about to bleed or boom? Trump just hit pause on $2.1 billion worth of Chicago infrastructure funding, and yes, that's shaking up local markets. The pause targets the Red Line extension and Red and Purple modernization projects, part of a federal review into race and sex-based contracting rules. Add in the ongoing government shutdown, and everything's at a standstill. Construction and engineering companies could see delayed revenue and slower project timelines, meaning short-term pain for infrastructure players. If courts or Congress push back and restore funding, local contractors could see a quick rebound, turning this freeze into a buy-the-dip opportunity. They're tracking federal announcements, court rulings, and contract restarts, because once those funds unlock, billions flow right back into Chicago's economy.
In a stunning move, President Donald Trump administration froze $2.1 billion, citing fear it could be tied to race-based contracting. As Washington D.C. points fingers, ordinary Americans, from federal worker to small business owner, are left wondering who really pay the price when politics and race collide.
Here we go again. Another political circus, and this time Chicago's the stage. The Trump administration just slammed the brakes on a massive $2.1 billion infrastructure fund meant for the city's Red Line extension and modernization projects. And why? According to Budget Director Russell Vought, they're making sure money isn't being funneled into race-based contracting. Sounds noble, right? But let's not kid ourselves. This is pure political chess. The Department of Transportation even sent a letter saying the projects are now under administrative review to sniff out any unconstitutional practices. Conveniently, they also blame the government shutdown for lacking staff to finish the review. Classic move. Delay, deflect, and point fingers. Trump warned he'd go after Democrat-backed programs, and boy, he's keeping that promise. Chicago joins New York City, where $18 billion in projects were frozen too, and feeling the heat. And who gets caught in the crossfire? Ordinary people, just trying to commute.
Infrastructure funds frozen for Chicago during shutdown. Trump's administration pours $2.1 billion in infrastructure funding for Chicago, including the Red Line extension project, leveraging the shutdown to pressure Democrats. Again, this is just political punishment. There is no legal reason to do this.
Okay, quick breakdown. Trump just hit Chicago where it hurts. The $0.1 billion in federal money for major transit projects is now on ice. This covers the Red Line extension and big upgrades for the red and purple lines. The excuse? The White House says it wants to make sure no funding is flowing through race-based contracting, calling out Chicago's use of DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise programs. Meanwhile, this is part of a broader tactic. Earlier, they froze $18 billion in New York transit projects for similar reasons. Critics say this is political leverage, weaponizing infrastructure to punish Democratic-run cities. My take, this kind of move will delay vital projects, raise costs, and disproportionately hurt under-resourced neighborhoods relying on public transit.
The funding seems to be in part over the minority set-aside contracts that are part of the project. Mayor Brandon Johnson says the city will take the Trump administration to court to try and restore the money for a critical rail project that has been in the works for decades. Right now, the Red Line only goes as far as 95th Street, but the extension project would take it further south and east all the way to 130th Street. But for the moment, all that is on hold, with the Trump administration putting a freeze on $2.1 billion in federal grants that Congress approved for the project.
We're going to use every tool that's available to me to ensure that those dollars are restored to the people of this city.
The U.S. Department of Transportation said it is in the process of reviewing the funding for the project, quote, to ensure no additional federal dollars go towards discriminatory, illegal, and wasteful contracting practices. That could undermine the city's efforts to ensure work on extending the Red Line includes women and minority-owned businesses as part of its equity and inclusion goals.
It's not the end of it. You know, this president is not going to stop our progress. Now, look, he has made it very clear who he prioritizes. And it's not West Side, South Side.
The funding freeze comes on day 3 of the government shutdown and is seen by some as a strong-arm tactic on Democrats in Congress.
I think at best it's an attempt to pressure our Illinois senators to vote for what is a bad funding bill. Worst case scenario is it's a part of an additional war on these cities that they're not going to fund anything, transit, housing. That would be devastating for Chicago.
Congressman Quigley notes that what the Trump administration is doing is illegal.
We finally got this in the process where we could see the end. This actually would take place. incredibly important for the economy and for the well-being of people on the South Side. This may halt that for good.
And after 50 years of struggle to make sure that the South Side is prioritized, this president is going to try to disrupt that. Not under my watch.
The freeze could also impact the Red and Purple Line modernization project on the north side of Chicago, although Alderman Bennett Lawson says most of that work is already done. Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth criticized the funding freeze as both illegal and vindictive on states that did not support President Trump.
Okay, Craig, thank you.
Yep.
Credit to the stitches and sources that help shape this story. As the federal shutdown stretches on, froze funds have ripped through the economy, halting construction projects, delaying community programs, and deepening economic uncertainty. Many small businesses, especially majority-owned ones, were counting on those federal contracts to stay afloat. Now, those opportunities are on ice. According to The Nation, the impact hits the working class hardest from Washington, D.C. to Chicago's South Side, where families have struggled to meet rent and groceries as federal checks stop coming in. In Chicago, a city that is long fought for equality, and in conclusion, the reap effect of this decision are deep felt. Majority business owners who built their dream through fair contracting program now face uncertainty. The $2.1 billion froze does not just steal money, it froze progress, jobs, and trust. To the mayor of Chicago and the governor, this is a call to action. Create city and state level relief program that protects small and majority owned business during federal freeze. Don't let Washington policy determine local survival. Invest in your people. Don't just throw wells, but throw policy that ensure there are opportunity for all. And to the White House, remember, when funds met for public goods are politicized, it is the American people who suffer most. Transparency and fairness must guide every decision. Not race, not politics, but progress. The story of America has always been about resilience. In moments like this, we are reminded that unity, not division, build nation. The question is, will Washington listen? Thanks to the Stitches video that made this documentary possible. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Tell us, do you think 2.1 billion froze was about fairness and politics? Comments. Let's know your opinion.